Bettman?
Here.
Mrs. Highland?
Here.
Chairman Williford? Here. Motion carried. Or, you have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Nope.
Motion for the minutes to be approved.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the minutes for the meeting on July 12th, 2012.
July 10th.
July 10th. It's 2012. It's okay.
July 10th, okay.
We
Second.
understand.
What are you laughing at?
Approve the minutes. Please call the roll.
Mr. Kish?
Yes.
Mrs. Bettman?
Yes.
Mr. Walford?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Chairman Williford?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Revitalization overlay application number R011-2012-14700 Baltimore Avenue, Town Center, Laurel, formerly Laurel Mall.
That would be me, Mr. Chairman. Do I still pick? Yeah, I'm still picking up. Okay.
Go slowly, please, as the like to say.
Well, actually, I wasn't planning on saying a great deal. The applicant's making a. It's the new me. No, I mean, the applicant's going to have a presentation tonight, keeping in mind that structurally we haven't done one of these in a while. This is a conceptual. Obviously, the applicant has gone far beyond a conceptual plan. So many of the things that we talked about in here are things that we're going to be asking the council to include in their ordinance when the final plan is executed. So with that, obviously this involves the removal, and they'll tell you that Burlington Coat Factory will stand for now and be demolished at a somewhat later time. That they'll elaborate on. I'll let them do that. Obviously, this has about 400,000 square feet. It has movie theaters. It has Prince George's County's first Harris Teeter store, and they will make other announcements as we go along. And the reason I think it's important, and I can't stress this enough because I worked in retail briefly myself, is you cannot fix retail until all the anchors are signed, because everything kind of, not major, but the pads will change, the configuration, the main buildings will be altered, so you cannot hold them to this template that's cast in concrete. With that said, what they did is their illustrative plan shows apartments in the back of this. There's about 435. Those will be coming to you at a later date because, and what you don't have in a lot of things is the city attorney ruled, is because this is less square footage than exists there today, then you don't have any adequate public facilities findings because you have less than what you have today. So that's where you're not riddled with all kinds of fiscal analysis. With that said, though, there is a major thing that they are doing, which I think is important, and that is they're doing some off-site improvements. They're coordinating now with the State Highway Administration. One of the most important to me is that the intersection of Laurel Place and Sherry Lane will become a full interchange. If you remember the try way back when you could actually make a left turn out of it, and half the people actually went in the wrong lanes and were hitting opposing traffic. So that will be obviously cured by the design of this interchange. But the interchange will be important to drain the south end of the center. Plus, with the grocery store, its parking field is kind of almost across the street. So it's a great place to have a new pressure valve placed on the property. The developer is well known in Maryland. Greenberg Gibbons for Annapolis Town Center, Watt Chapel Town Center, Hunt Valley Town Center, which this is remarkably like in terms of its basic design. Obviously, this is a smaller parcel, and I would have loved if they could have fit more on it, but we just simply don't have the space. So again, we're looking at something that's total demolition. We've had discussions with the applicant that we're going to be adding on later on in the process about some of the questions they had about our conditions. Again, there's clarification. The final plan, we want to have bicycle parking added into because the city does have an adopted bicycle thoroughfare plan, so it's logical to have a place to put them, assuming they're coming here to work or shop. There was also discussion about them reaching agreement with Central Maryland Regional Transportation about doing some sort of Laurel hub. And a lot of and I'm not speaking for Mr. Smalls, but a lot of the council felt that that is something that definitely was important, but it shouldn't be finalized now. So the applicant has agreed to meet with CMRT and the city to try and roll out a logical location where CMRT, because it's just as important for the CMRT people to have a stop or a hub here, because more importantly than customers is a lot of stores need their employees to access via transit, because they're not known for paying extraordinary salaries and stuff like that. So a lot of people are looking, and a lot of people will be coming from outside the Beltway using Metrobus and the CMRT system. And we also said this is one of the first projects that uses all the restrictions and the provisions of the Unified Land Development Code. The community appearance standards, which are done at the staff level and then appealed to you if they're unsatisfactory, we have agreed that we will review them, not necessarily until after the final plan, because again, retail facades change with the tenant. But we'll be, obviously we'll bring those back to you if we run into any troubles with those. Number 5 is a patent template comment. It's compliance with green technology. Green technology, a lot of our green technology provisions are not necessarily in this. There's more landscaping here that's been here in 40 years. So that's a good thing. But from a code standpoint, as you remember, the city obviously has green technology restrictions, but what it doesn't do is hamper applicants with the expensive costs of LEED certification. So the chief building official, who is now recovering from knee surgery, has been given the power to look at other comparable things or equivalency that doesn't cost, because I have nothing against LEED, but you can add hundreds of thousands of dollars in your design cost to say that you are, quote, certified, when in fact you can accomplish the same thing without going through the formalization. I mean, sometimes it means something to tenants, sometimes it doesn't. So they obviously have the option to do that. So with that said, obviously the way the site lays out, there was a lot of things that, again, because the size, we wish we had more room for them, but I think the site lays out the stores, the Main Street Boulevard that comes perpendicular from Route 1, and then the end of the street is obviously what's been identified as the Regal Stadium 12-plex at the end of the street. Obviously there will be restaurants that'll be very anxious to go around those kind of things. And then the tier of stores in front of that is, again, by the traffic circle, is a lot, apparel, grocery, and sporting goods will be primary tenants of those, and then smaller shops, and then ringed by restaurants. I really like the fact that they bring the front restaurants up, because there's nothing more annoying or dated than having a front-loaded parking lot where you come by than Route 1 and all you see is surface parking with lights. So it's nice. I really like the fact that those buildings ring that. But again, we're dealing only in a conceptual standpoint. The applicant obviously is moving very quickly. We'd like to move with him, and he may have this to you very quickly in terms of a final plan too, because they are designing as we speak. But as such, and with those clarifications, we do recommend, and this is embodied in Ordinance 1752, just for FYI. I don't know whether that was an attachment in your, that the council has on its docket. The council still has to hold 2 public hearings because they can't finish their process until this commission has had its recommendation sent to them, and then they held 2 public hearings now scheduled for September 24th and October the 10th, which is a special meeting because of the it's Columbus Day, isn't it? Yeah. Columbus Day holiday. So they're scheduled to take action on October 10th, and you will probably have the final plan. So all this is coming together very quickly. Obviously we keep raising the bar, and this obviously raises the bar, and this will cause the bar to be raised even more because of some of the input we're getting throughout the city and other investments in the city that people are doing. So it's definitely all a good thing. And with that, we do ask that you recommend the mayor and city council approve the concept plan for town center at Laurel with the conditions as contained in this report and as will be embodied in Ordinance 1752.
I have just a quick question, Carl, and you can address this later after maybe I've never, as a member of this body, I have not gone through such an extensive development before. So this is my first time through this. So this might be better done in writing, or I'll leave it up to you. What I'd like to get is a sense of what's the flow. I know we're doing concept now, and then we've got something else, and then the council's, you know what I mean? And again, you don't have to address this now, but I would be interested in having somebody kind of explain to me kind of the flow and exactly what our decision space is at each time we get a chance to see.
This is moving particularly fast. The applicant has already obviously exceeded the concept level. If all bodies consent, you would make a recommendation on this tonight to the mayor and city council. Once they approve 52, you would have this in your laps as early as the second Tuesday in November for final action. Now, there's a number of things obviously that are conditioned on this. Obviously, the applicant is working with State Highway Administration. He apparently has the pledge of Councilwoman
Lehman?
Thank you, to expedite stormwater management, because they do have the concept approval.
Yeah.
So
So
they're steaming along.
what I'm interested in noodling out, at least for myself and maybe for some of my colleagues, is exactly the decisions we're being asked to make, in which I'm interested in understanding what this body's decision space is, because I know sometimes when various things come forward in the year or so I've been on this body, I'm often at a loss to, okay, what is it I'm really trying to decide here for the community?
In this particular process, it's meant to be simple because it involves redevelopment and flexibility of it. So, but the bottom line is, tonight your role is advisory to the council to approve the concept plan. When they do that, then this body is the final decider of the final plan. You are, in essence, the final plan of development overlay is synonymous with the final site and landscape plan. So it really is that.
So we get 2 bites at this tonight, and then sometime in November,
Most likely
potentially.
the second Tuesday in November,
And tonight, if the council takes action in the affirmative, then this will come back to us for final approval, and then those are the only 2 times this body will have to act on this for the applicant. Is that true?
Assuming they don't deviate from the.
No, I'm assuming a success-oriented plan here, okay?
Yes, yeah, because it jives well, because they're moving, they want to move fast. Obviously, they follow through on the demolition as we go by, just to look most days, just to see. But they obviously have plans that, that involve.
Okay.
They're moving ahead and getting things done on the site, initial site work, utility, and, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
That's moving at the same time.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Carl, there's a lot of, I don't know what's boilerplate and what's not. But is there a glossary of terms for commissioners?
Glossary?
Has there ever been?
There is a definition of planning terms published by American Planning Association, because a lot of what we call, what's constantly updated, because a lot of what plannerese is, what I'm speaking, is acronyms. They're rarely things that make sense to them.
Also, Mr. Chairman, there are publications for members of planning commissions. In fact, I think we have one back in the council office that helps to explain what the whole process, similar to the questions that Commissioner Wilson was asking. So there are publications that certainly can be made available to any other commissioners who might want. And if you want, let me know and I'll see to it that you get it.
Who else besides me would like to have a copy of that? Pretty sure there's one in the back of that thick book we had last year.
So you're talking about the master plan?
Okay. I can look and buy it for this, I'll put a copy. Okay, Council Commissioner, what is a fenestration?
Fenestration refers to windows. Oh, I'm sorry.
What's a fenestration? What's a fenestration?
Windows.
Windows 95? Terms in here, okay.
Are you looking at the tenant's manual? Is that where that word is?
It's several places.
Oh, okay.
Once you hit the first time, it shows up again and again. What's the fenestration does?
Well-
Like the niche is a window in another language.
What they were trying to do is give you an idea of the standards that Greenberg Gibbons uses. That is really a document that's for business use in the private sector. It's not a planning document.
Very well. Are you ready to hear from the petitioner?
You the chair.
Anyone have any other questions before we go? I have a
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Bob DiPietro, RJD Consultants, 502 Gorman Avenue, Laurel, Maryland. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, we're appearing tonight for conceptual site plan approval on the Town Center of Laurel. It's the document before you. I believe it has the site plan on the front is what I'm going to be working from. On the first page, and we would ask that as part of the record, this document be adopted as a total part of the record after the, as part of the recommendations. Most of you all know this is the site of the old Laurel Mall. For some of us old people that cut ribbons on this place are happy to see it come down. You've noticed that the front deck has already been down on the ground. They are in the building now for asbestos removal, and then we begin tearing the building itself down. I want to talk just for a second because I think it's important for the Commission to understand, and in respect to Councilman Wilson's question. We are on a very tight timeline in order to meet tenant demands for the time this center opens. And so it is our intent to have this down on the ground completely by the 1st of January. That is everything but the Burlington Coat store. The Burlington Coat will remain as part of our negotiations with Burlington, who had 7 years remaining on the original Montgomery Ward lease, and so therefore they opted to stay open because they want to stay in the new project. As the building is torn down from the J.C. Penney end up to Burlington, as that gets demolished, a new Burlington store will be built on the other end. We will move them down, tear Burlington down, because they're sitting at the Grocery Anchor's location. So with that in mind, that's why we're moving at the pace that we're moving. It was decided by the city administration, specifically the city attorney, that as opposed to coming back and amending the first overlay, which included the mall remaining as a building, come in with a new overlay and start from scratch, because this is far less retail, and obviously we're demolishing the mall and we're putting in a town center, which is a completely different design that's taking place. The site is about 35 acres in total. It's bounded by 4th Street, US Route 1, and Cherry Lane. And I'll go over to the map in a minute and lay out some of the changes. Under section 20-13, purpose and intent of reviolation overlay zones, you'll see that section A through section P are the outlines required by the applicant. We have met those tests to the planning division and the administration in order to qualify, as well as for our RO1-1, the city center overlay area, which has the qualifications, which basically go through retail and mixed-use development, town center concept, economic viability, jobs being the major core of why the overlay was taken about. For conceptual process purposes tonight, we have a traffic and circulation plan which was submitted, plan for the re-subdivision or consolidations. That in this case, it's all been consolidated. Many people don't know that one of the problems Samara faced early on is the Montgomery Ward store was not part of the mall. It was a separate 13-acre site owned by a separate party, and it took a couple years to get those negotiations over before that land was purchased. Now the land is all under one ownership and one partnership. The phasing schedule here, as I just explained on the retail, involves Burlington Coat. A second phase may deal with the residential section at another point in time. We have met all the questions by the staff, and there is a traffic outline plan in your package. Our traffic engineers here tonight, as well as our civil engineer, if you have any technical questions. I would also go that an SHA letter is attached to the back. This was the initial response from Steve Foster, who is the basically the chief of the Permit Access Division, outlining what we know the issues are in terms of US Route 1, and I'll walk through those in the site plan in a few minutes. On the conclusions and recommendations, we fully agree. On the last page of the analysis, conclusion, and recommendations, we have no objections to what the staff is recommending. I do want to throw one caveat about the infamous bus hub. At the council meeting the other night, there were several opinions from the council members about the bus hub. And what I think is the proper thing is, prior to us coming back to you for final, we will be meeting with the bus company and the city administration to find out exactly how we're going to deal with the entire bus issue, 4th Street, the traffic flow. I can tell you during the mall deal, when we did this thing with Samara, we had planned a hub on the property and designed it as part of the parking concept, and the bus company objected to it. So we need to go back and have another dialogue about how they want these buses, where we intend to set them up. Because we are a town center, it is not a hub that we can accommodate on the property, but we do understand there are some needs, and we're going to address those needs with the bus company and the city. But we need everybody at the table at one time for us to do that. Other than that, all other recommendations from the planning staff are acceptable to us. What I would like to do is walk over and point a few out. We're on television, so you have to have your microphone. US Route 1 on the front side, the main street coming into the center. This is the cinema, which will be basically the center mark as you come up the drive to see this. I have recommended to the city administration today that, at the convenience of those members interested from both the Planning Commission and City Council, we'd like to arrange sometime in the next couple of weeks on a Saturday for those interested to take you to the Annapolis Town Center in Walchapel. I think it's much better before we get to final if you get a concept by actually standing and seeing what it is we're talking about and how Greenberg Gibbons goes about building these great centers. But very wide Main Street. This is a large kind of gathering attraction for the public. Sidewalks are very wide, restaurants with seating areas out actually on the sidewalk. There will be, as you can see, a road, a network of grids throughout the property for the traffic to flow, different locations of the buildings, and we are keeping part of the deck in the rear. Now, I want to qualify that statement. That's now being looked at by the engineers. If the deck holds, great. If it doesn't, we're taking it all down, starting all over again. And as you can see from this illustration, there's a tremendous amount of landscaping. And if you've been to the Annapolis Town Center, for example, you will see that that's a large component of what they build. This is yet another illustration, but what I want to do is talk about two of the issues that we seem to be getting most questions on. As Carl stated, this in response to the state administration, we're putting a right lane, additional right lane, which will have a turn on the Cherry Lane off US Route to help this queuing and to help the queuing back on this end. Laurel Place, when Laurel Lakes was built, this was originally supposed to be a full-scale intersection. What we're going to do is introduce that back with a traffic light at this intersection. So this will give people the ability to leave here and go into Laurel Lakes or back out Laurel Lakes back into this center without going on US Route 1. All intersections are meeting level of service D, so we have no major problems on the traffic flow. There will obviously be some modification to the lights. We have to do the ADA modifications, and so all those will be accomplished accordingly. Because we're building less retail, and even with the residential, the impact of 4th Street is basically minimal. There was a question raised the other day about Green Hill Avenue, and again, I raised the comment for the benefit of the commission. Green Hill shows under the traffic studies, absolutely nothing for the city to be concerned about. And I would point out to the fact with almost twice the square footage of retail sitting on the site all those years, Green Hill Avenue never had a problem at the site. But obviously, we want the centers to learn. We'll look at all these as we go along. If there's anything we feel needs to be upgraded or dealt with because of an issue. But by the traffic report standards, there is no issue on the Green Hill Avenue 4th Street side. As Carl said, you know, as we go through this with tenants, I want to make something very clear. Things will change, but they will be minor in change. This developer is very strong on architectural controls. We're very careful about laying out design specs ahead of time. This is not a free-for-all for everybody to design a building that looks entirely different than the actual design that we'd like to see the buildings. So they may tweak a window to the left, to the right, you know, to the right when you see final plans, but we won't allow people to just design whatever they want on the front of the building. I would make that very clear. We're very sensitive on the landscaping, on the perimeter landscaping in the center. We're very attentive to the issue over where does your dumpster go and how do you hide it. Our standards are higher than the city has now, despite the fact that they've introduced a new bill on standards last night at the city council meeting. This particular developer holds that as an issue that is one they take extreme care about. They also don't like dumpsters laying around looking, you know, undesirable in the neighborhood. So with that in mind, we are conceptually going with this plan. It may have a tweak here or there. We don't know when we will come on with the residential. Right now, our concentration is to get the retail done, meet the timeline of the tenants, and get this project up and running in 2014. So that's where we are. As I said, we have all the technicians here, answer any questions that you might have. And again, we have no objection and asked for the record the report be submitted as part of the record.
For my edification, the top of the map would be the western bound, that's 4th Street.
4th Street, Cherry, Route 1.
About is in front of, right there, going in.
Right now, this is a right in, right out only.
Where is this lane that's going to keep the Route 1 traffic?
We're building an extra lane along this side of US Route 1 here to our entranceway. And this will, as it is right now, if we didn't put that extra lane in, then the through lane would actually be both the turn lane and the standalone lane. This will allow a dedicated right turn lane.
While you're holding on the residential space, which is kind of where the Auto Express Montgomery Wards is, what's that land going to look like there? Are you taking down everything there?
Everything on this eventually will be off.
Okay.
Everything
so when
will be out.
Burlington comes down, that'll probably come down too. So it'll just be clear land. It won't still have that old building.
Correct.
And then in terms of, because I do remember very well that Laurel Place, the Highway Administration's report talks about the light, and it says that the signal is proposed. However, a signal warrant analysis has not been included. I just didn't know what that meant.
You, under the law, you have to do what they call a warrant, which is another word for a study, that we have to study to prove that a traffic light belongs there, because you can't just put them up wherever you want. So we have to do a warrant study.
Okay. But you will, the city, we won't open that until we know we've got a light there to put access across the concrete, right?
Yeah, I'm fairly confident that the warrant study will show that the light is needed.
I would think so.
And just another thing, if I can jump in.
And I might add that the state is controlling this intersection. This intersection is controlled by the city.
The city, that's why I was saying, and right now there's a concrete there.
Correct.
And so that won't open up until you've got
Correct.
a lights there.
And our Department of Public Works is clarifying some of the comments in that report. Some of them are just simply erroneous.
Okay.
They talked about county roads, and there really are no county roads adjacent to the site. So.
Thank you.
In the plan, it references in two areas on there, I'm sorry, 100-year overflow. I've looked at a lot of construction plans, I've never seen that term, so I'm, like some clarification.
This is Matt Kelly. Greenhorn is doing all the civil engineering on the site. You all may know this, not know this, but Matt's office is right here off Schweitzer Lane. They're moved their corporate offices up here, so.
Thanks. The reason the plan shows an overflow is there's right now a 48-inch storm drain system that runs through. It's a county system that takes water from 4th Street down to Route 1. We just showed that overflow path. Should anything ever get clogged up on 4th Street, we want to make sure that there's a path that water can get through without flooding any of the buildings. So that's all that shows is, should there be an issue, water will get through without flooding any of the first floor elevations of the buildings.
So my second question, is the topography of the site changing?
A little bit. As you know, there's quite a bit of fall from 4th Street back to Route 1. We anticipate this will be roughly about a 5% grade coming up. So imagine a slight grade coming up that'll still be ADA accessible. These buildings here on Main Street will be terraced. So there's about a 3-foot jump from this building to this building, so that there will be a small wall on the low end. So there'll be outdoor seating at the high side, and there'll be a lower sidewalk as well. So yeah, imagine that grade being broke, instead of going straight up like it does now to the front of the mall. Imagine, a grade, and then sort of a terrace, then another step up.
Okay, thank you.
And if I can jump in quickly, just so most people know this, just in case you don't, not one drop of stormwater leaving this site goes into Laurel Lakes. Not one drop. It heads easterly into the Bear Branch drainage system on the other side of the road. Well, many people have assumed that it did. We'd like to keep that clear.
So one other question, the buildings on the left-hand side facing Route 1, are they going to still be at the same topography level that they are now?
They will be roughly the same elevation as the edge of the parking that you see out there now.
Okay, okay. And then I had one last question on the landscaping plan on the redevelopment plan. It notes that there's 1,800 or 1,260 parking spaces, or 1,872. And then on this landscaping plan, it notes 1,069. So if you were to deduct the north parking rear deck spaces, there's a difference between the two of over.
I believe they weren't counting the rear deck on the landscape plans, because the landscape calculations are based on number of parking spaces. There's so many street trees that have to be provided, and that was on the surface lots. I don't think they were counting the structured parking and some of the existing parking out here.
So it's not just that parking. It's still, I think you should just double check the math. It doesn't look like, even if I deducted that, it still was off by a significant amount. So if you could just clarify.
If I could follow up with a parking question. I was trying to find it, and it's probably in here, I just missed it. How do you noodle out the parking that's required for something like this?
We're parking this at 5 spaces per 1,000, and then deducting out 25% of the square footage, because we're assuming 25% of it's back of house. It's not leasable space, so it boils down to about 3.75 per 1,000 square foot of retail.
And are there standards for that? I mean,
The 5 per 1,000 standard is traditional, but it's largely, that's what results in gigantic strip centers that have huge parking lots that are vacant 99% of the year.
right.
So, I mean, with these people, what I'm counting on is there's a interaction between cinema and restaurant here. The food store kind of like does its own thing, but the rest of the thing, when you're parked here, you're going to do multiple things that you would not necessarily do if you're going to the Kmart, not to use them as a reason. So I have a high comfort level with the parking here. The only thing that people have to realize is when you're going up the boulevard, the angled spaces, sometimes you may have to pause for someone to wait to get into a space. It's designed not to be a thoroughfare. It's a very cool and slow experience. Because staff, we have gone and taken field trips to like Hunt Valley, which this is most like, and it really, there's no racing in places like this. They're designed to slow people down.
And to answer your question, the 3.75 is fairly consistent industry standard for this type of center.
at the end of the day, it's your tenants that's most, it's not going to have any adverse effect on the surrounding community. If people can't park there, they're going to go to
The center doesn't work.
another commercial establishment. So I get that. I was just curious of how you think your way through it. Thank you very much.
When you plan for your overflow, the drain pipe or the water pipes that are under there now, how old are they? How long have they been there?
We're replacing 95% of the infrastructure that's out there. As I mentioned, there's an existing pipe that actually runs under the mall building now. We'll be picking it up near 4th Street. So the existing pipe would stop right after it comes down the center, and we'll be piping it in a new pipe out around down Main Street and make the connection where it does now. So the portion, there will be no storm drain under any buildings, and from 4th Street down to Route 1, it'll be all new pipe.
The weekly thing in this area, in the district in particular, 100-year-old water pipes.
Yeah, no, that all the infrastructure will be replaced, save for some storm drains out here on the edge, but 95% of it, the water, sewer, storm drain will be replaced.
One question that I thought of at the groundbreaking, and you just said it again, and I think I've heard it twice tonight, that this center is being referred to as Main Street. I see Bobby Joe smiling. I've heard people comment.
No, it's not called.
Obviously not
No,
gonna
it's
have
not called Main Street, but
Even
it is
though-
but it is a town center.
Is it going to have a
it's-
street name, or?
Yes. Yeah, we haven't named them yet.
I've heard it referred to as Main Street, and then I've heard people.
And yeah, we've had a couple members of the Board of Trade say, please don't call that Main Street, and we said, don't, we're not going to call it Main Street.
That was
Yeah.
why
They'll actually have street names. However, these town centers are going back to project the old
Yes,
times. I mean,
yes.
malls are out, town centers are in, be on the street, year-round weather, exposed to the elements. We were over at Wall Chapel today, which is beginning to, several stores at the new Wall Chapel is now open. The movie theaters open up Thursday night. Wegmans opens up on the 28th. Target is already open. Bed Bath is already open. A lot of the small shops. And if if you went out there today, the restaurants were just mobbed with people sitting outside in the sidewalk cafe areas, and you'll have a lot of that element here in this primary street.
And then I keep trying to find, what's the access going to be between the Laurel Shopping Center, the little street that still goes through? I can't quite tell. Is that still going to be there, or are you going to try and design that out? So
Well, that's still there, but I'll let Mr. Brindle answer that
I can't quite see
question.
it on the plans.
I'm speaking for myself. That street is a danger to
I-
public safety. It should not be there. We're also going to take action against McDonald's. Some of the things that happen there, they're just not acceptable. And it results in something we're not supposed to make a left turn. We'll call it Route Tuesday.
Yes.
You're not supposed to turn there anymore. So I would personally rather see it go. It would be nice to have a big circulatory pattern here. It would be nice to have this to be Town Center 2 next door. But in the near time, that's not likely to happen.
If there's no other questions, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right.
There was something in the reading about priority. That's right, Doc. Any more questions?
Mr. Smalls?
Are we ready to, oh, you got anything?
They've all sat down, they don't want to get up again. I do have a question that, in the traffic study and in your presentation, Mr. DePietro, you talked about the modifications that'll be made, adding a lane at Route 1 and Cherry, and Laurel Place. But I'm interested to know if there's going to be any traffic impact along 4th Street. I know you mentioned Green Hill, but just if I'm understanding, I can't see what's written on the drawing there, but is the movie theater near the rear of the town center?
Yes.
So you didn't discuss whether or not there'll be any ingress egress along 4th Street.
Well, there are several points. This is the one that obviously still exists to this day.
Mm-hmm.
This parking deck plus the bottom part, the parking on the ground level is at its immediate entrance. You can also achieve it from going, in from other points. There's another entrance point here, okay, on the rear side of 4th. Okay. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm missing one, but 4 entrance points. Yeah, up there.
Up there. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Chairman, before we make the recommendation.
Can we go ahead and strike or change the wording in the section for the bus hub, number 3? Can we strike that altogether for now, or reword it so that it's?
My suggestion would be to change the shall contain to shall work with the applicant and Central Maryland Regional Transit.
I'll change the, edit the word.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to propose in whatever formulation of a motion we make that this, what's this called, this package that we've all been looking at gets included, referenced in the motion.
Right, yeah. Ordinance 1752 of the council approves it. Always references the technical staff report and the recommendation of this body as essential.
But we want this version of it with the changes, okay? So.
That's fine. Any more questions? Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend to the Mayor and City Council of Laurel that application number R-01-1-2012, an application for a conceptual plan approval for the town center at Laurel, be approved with the recommendation and condition mentioned above, 1 through 6 there.
For a second? I'll second that. Thank you, Mr. Kish.
Mr. Walford?
Yes.
Mr. Kish?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bettman?
Yes.
Chairman Williford?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'm just ready to go to the movies, so let's get this thing done.
The Laurel Leader article, I haven't heard as much upbeat conversation from the citizenry since that article was published, so there's a lot of people looking forward to this. I'd like to see it happen.
It's amazing the number of people that are up photographing the site every day as everything's being torn down.
Yeah.
We have a real photo section along Burlington Code.
That's interesting that you mentioned that. Just Sunday, I had one of my grandsons, he's 5. We were at McDonald's. I took a picture of him just to sort of mark in time so that 10, 15 years from now, when the center's fully built, everything is built out, we have sort of a time reference for him. So I
The
thought
Lost Laurel website's been covering this pretty well.
You can get a primary table right on the on that side of McDonald's if you want to sit outside and watch them do it.
It's an exciting project. We're really all looking forward to it, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Other business?
We got next.
Oh, the ordinance, yes, I'm ready to hit the gavel. Text amendment application number 227, ordinance number 1751.
Mr. Brock.
Yes, I have that, Mr. Chairman. These are changes that are being recommended by the city solicitor, Mr. Manzi. The first of which deals with the sign section of the Land Development Code. It would put a time restriction on temporary window signs. Currently, there is no restriction. This would require that they be no longer displayed indefinitely, but be limited to 45 days. And this would, on the second page, this would exclude real estate signs that are displayed in windows on Main Street. The other changes deal with the Historic District Commission. It was recommended by the city solicitor that this language on page 3 be eliminated so that it's clear that the regulation of signs is under the sign section of the Development Code, that the Historic District Commission has the authority to regulate the placement, the placement on the structure, the color, and the design of the sign, but the content they cannot regulate, and all the other matters concerning signs is regulated under the signs section of the Land Development Code. And then the final one is currently under the Historic District Commission. It regulates that signs, the letters of signs or symbols shall be no larger than 3 inches. This is currently not being enforced because the 3 inches are so small, it's the size of the letters on the address. So it's just a cleanup.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
I got a couple of questions. So has this section been up through the Historic District Commission?
It's going on the 18th of this
been yet?
month.
Okay.
Yes.
How many tenants does this impact, these changes impact?
Any retail store that would be a retailer business that would be on Main Street.
I mean, I think my question is more to, I mean, if this is being implemented, there must be a number of tenants that are not in compliance. So, I mean, how many tenants is this really impacting? Is it just a few that are constantly troublesome, or is it really going to impact the majority of the tenants, which is going to annoy them? I mean, I'm just trying to get an understanding.
The temporary signs, it's just a few where they cover the front window with temporary signs, but they remain there forever. This would limit them to the 45 days, and they would have to take them down and replace them or not put them back up.
If I could offer, after a couple of years on the Historic District, this sign thing is a very troubling thing. And, you know, just like with parking in front of this body, right, we're always trying to make accommodations for the folks on Main Street because there's just some things you can't do. The other accommodation you're trying to make when you're on the Historic District is try to allow people to put in the signage that lets their business operate. And John knows this as well as anyone. It's hard to attract a car going down Main Street, right, and let them know, you know, that you have this kind of business there. And my feeling is to put as much of that in the hands of the Historic District as possible, and I think this does that, and let them kind of handle that on a, you know, in a generalized case-by-case basis with their judgment, and make it then, once they rule, enforceable. Because just like with the parking we have to deal with on this body, you know, each one of these is kind of unique, and we can't do a strict interpretation of the rules. So.
Does that
Two,
impact?
oh, I'm sorry.
But I can't answer your question directly, which is how
But
many businesses.
that's what I was going to go back to Monique's question, which is there something in particular that prompted this? And if so, is either that person or that business aware, or are they going to be grandfathered? I mean, some of these, yeah, there's a reason, I guess, or I'd
That's an assumption.
I'm not aware that there is a singular case. To me, the most important thing about this is as Mr. Wilson pointed out, a window sign has been one of the most contentious things to try to define in our history. And so this puts an end to it. Not everybody will be happy with this. The commission may even be happy with some of the decisions we make, but it is not meant. Plus, it's also, we need to be a little bit flexible to our businesses, because until the commission actually meets, you could have someone having a taste of Laurel sign in their window, yet they'd be precluded for almost 30 days, depending when they came to us to put it in. So you need a little wiggle room, especially where small businesses are concerned.
Does Mr. Wilson's suggestion that when we approve this, it goes to the Historic Commission for a final decision?
We can certainly share that with them, of course.
Well, it's actually out of order a bit, right? Normally, it would have come to them for their recommendation, then our approval, because we're the final adjudicator, right, for this?
Well, they would,
This is a text amendment.
this is a text.
Oh,
They
so
really
this has to
don't-
go to the council, okay.
Right, they don't.
So so the Historic Condition Commit can give their input to the council, and then we can give our input to the council, and everything's good.
Right, both
Correct.
parties
Okay,
are-
I apologize, I had that wrong.
And as this body is recommending and sees that there's a need for the Historic District Commission to have a look at this, the council has as well. So, yeah, they'll get a shot at,
Yes.
making any comments that they choose to before it goes to a vote on the council.
So we still make a recommendation for approval?
Yes.
Yes,
And
please.
just a process check, when we just make text amendments, I mean, it's not like most of our planning commission stuff where you drive by and there's a big sign. So how will the businesses on Laurel get the word of this so that if they have an issue or have comment, that they can have their input? Because I don't know, I don't see how just changing a text and then somebody telling them that we've changed it after we've changed it.
Well, under the requirements of the Land Development Code, we do publish this in a legal notice, what the content is. It's also on the webpage of the city.
But before, so that they can have comment and input, or
Yes.
only after?
No, it's before.
So is this already out there for anybody to have come to comment tonight on?
It is, but I think your suggestion, everything you're saying is, I'll make sure that it gets to the Board of Trade, so that way most people in the street can see it right away
Thank you.
on their webpage.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna have to.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I mean, I would suggest that you're gonna have to kind of write the layman's version of this that says if your thing is like this, then you need to think about this and offer some input, because, as the chairman has said, sometimes the planning language is a little obtuse. Nothing personal.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. I'm seeing a lot of more neon signs on Main Street, flashing ones. I don't care about the plain, nice-looking neon signs, but there are a lot of flashing ones now.
Flashing is illegal.
Well, I know it is.
We'll do a double check for some of the.
You want the addresses? I got them in my back pocket here.
I knew some of the ones you're talking about, because you walk away. Yeah, because we already did this with the Laurel Shopping Center sign, regardless of how you view it, whether you love it, hate it, or whatever. But it is absolutely forbidden in the city, and this is my passion. Chrissy said, "Oh, God, here he goes again." To have a sign that flashes or changes intensity in less than 15 seconds. It's absolutely forbidden in law. So a flashing sign, you get those. You buy them in stores, but you can easily just flip the switch to make them change the intensity, or just leave them off. That's the solution. Because I've told a number of people, this is where my pharmacy is, I said, the neon sign is okay, but nothing can flash.
Well, let us take action to enforce the rule of law, lest we be accused of the easy pass violations that were in the paper today, where nobody wants to hold anybody accountable. Thousands of people are going using the easy pass without a transponder. And when they send the word to whoever's supposed to enforce it, letters go in the thousands and no action. So there's $3-some million being out there that hasn't been collected by the state. Any further questions before we have a recommendation?
I have one also, I'm sorry. Jack, on this part where it says that the Historic District Commission may deal with the design of the sign, but not the content. I know a lot of sign applicants that come to the HDC, the commissioners tweak their request. They might change the font and even the wording on there. I've seen them come and they have so much on their sign. They'll have their business name, their address, their cell number, their business number, their email address, their website, and the sign is just so jumbled up with too much information. And I've seen the commission actually take out certain ones that really aren't necessary, like the email address or the 2 phone numbers. Get it down to 1 phone number. And the font, I've seen them come in where the font is just doesn't flow with the historic sense of the Main Street, and they'll recommend that they change the font. Will that wording there, but not the content, will that not allow them to recommend those kind of things? I think it's important for them to be able to make those little adjustments.
Well, that's what is currently in the language. It's not a change. And I think what that is addressing is freedom of speech. But I don't think that you're dealing with the email address and those sorts of things that they're adjusting.
So that kind of content, they would still have room to work with the applicant to.
I think there's a distinction in regulating clutter versus what the city attorney will tell you, and he's coming to the Historic District Commission meeting, is, thank you, it is absolutely unconstitutional to regulate content by the court's opinions today. And he'll be the first person to, yeah, and that's just because it happened before. I don't totally understand that, but you cannot regulate logos, you cannot regulate trademarks, and you cannot regulate speech. And he'll tell you that. And all the mess with election signs and yards, and it all goes back to the same demeanor of the court that's made themselves clear as, you know, if you wanted to put a sign up in front of your yard, unless it's obscene with a message or something, your speech is absolutely protected by the Constitution.
But I don't think, I mean, the way I would look at it is what the HDC is doing in that case is not regulating the content of the words. It's just the number of letters that are on the sign. I mean, at some point, it's a clutter issue or it's a stylistic issue. We're not saying that you have to spell it right.
Right, but I don't think, to address what Bill is saying, I don't think that the commission's powers are being diminished in any way. I mean, I still think they have a clutter power to do it, but I think they do have the right to say no for just putting too much on it. But to predetermine that you have a size lettering, that's the city attorney was very quick to say, no, you just can't do that. Or there was times, and quite frankly, when they said, we don't want any phone numbers on signs on Main Street, and he said, you cannot say that.
But you just said about the size, that the thing that I'm probably struggling the most with in all of this is the addition of the size of these symbols is limited to 3 inches in height. If somebody just wants to put a single word sale, like, you know, we were just talking 3 inches, I'm sitting here folding my paper in half to see how big 3 inches is, but I guess that line I'm not understanding. And
that's being deleted. That's current language that's being deleted.
Thank you. I thought that was what was being added. I apologize.
In the language of communication, less is often more.
I agree, because you can't imagine being in a conversation with lawyers and planners. We're discussing the proximity of a sign, how far away from the window pane it can get until it becomes or stops being a sign. And that's a very arbitrary moment.
So clarification, the underline is addition, the brackets are the subtractions?
Correct.
Sorry, my error, Mr. Chairman.
Any more? Go ahead.
No, I was going to make a motion if you're ready.
Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that that the Planning Commission recommend for adoption to the Mayor and City Council the text amendment as presented by staff, number 227, ordinance number 1751. That's it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Green, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Welford?
Yes.
Mr. Kish?
Yes.
Mrs. Bettman?
Yes.
Chairman Williford?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I appreciate your attending and participating. No, not you.
Not me.
Yes, you're participating but you're not getting to vote per se, but I just appreciate you being here because it makes you part of the family. Good time. Yes. that you're doing it. Everybody does it, so thank you very much. Plus, you make the panel, a whole panel, you two make it look a lot better.
Speak for yourself.
Yes, I will, always.
Mr. Chairman, before you pound the gavel, I just wanted to go back to a question that was raised earlier
Which
about,
question?
Information reading material for the commission. I just Googled Planning Commission handbook, and there's a whole laundry list of
Terms.
not just terms, but books, PDFs, a number of things that you can get by Googling Planning Commission handbooks that'll certainly, and one of them does have a glossary of terms, so I think you'll be able to find.
What was that word he was interested in?
Fenestration or something like that.
Wasn't that in that test we had to take?
It may have been.
I remember that.
I'm older than you. So my memory's
Yeah, about
intact,
30
but I don't
years.
always have same-day delivery. Any more questions or comments? Meeting is adjourned. I'll Google.